Hey, this is Sam from Team, and you're listening to Breakdowns for Breakfast.
Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Breakdowns for Breakfast. I am your host, Danger, and joining me is a fellow that I cannot properly break down an album without, Monster. Say hi, Monster.
Hi. Good morning.
On this episode of Breakdowns for Breakfast, we are going to be talking another fan request, and this is actually a fan request that we have gotten a request from previously. So this is a request from my old friend Jason. Previously, he had requested Throwdown. Now, I don't know if anybody listened to the Throwdown episode, but this is nothing like Throwdown. And so when we took on an episode, an album, sorry, hold on, let me start over. The band's name is I Am Abomination. The album is To Our Forefathers that was released May 11th, 2010. So, a band called I Am Abomination, when Jason suggested it, I was expecting something closer to Throwdown. But this is not very close to Throwdown at all. This is very much on the swancore side of things, which the swancore is, the definition I found, is a subgenre of post-hardcore that combines elements of math rock, jazz fusion, and progressive rock. It is characterized by complex rhythms, intricate guitar work, and unpredictable song structures. I feel like this kind of fits into the swancore. But, yeah, so I Am Abomination did not sound like what I had in my head when I first started listening to it. And so the band doesn't match their name, doesn't match the imagery that they put out. But
right.
So I know you've got a lot to say about this one, Monster. I haven't given you a lot, as I don't normally. So
right.
Go ahead. Hit me with your best shot.
Well, first off, let's just say, Jason, thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you
for constantly giving us suggestions. And if I remember correctly, you and I were both fairly, I don't want to say indifferent, but we were both kind of middle of the road with that Throwdown record. Yeah. I think I liked it a little more than you because I'm a bigger Pantera fan than you. But neither one of us felt like real passionately like, man, we hate this. Man, we love this, you know. So, right. Jason, I would like you to know that tonight you don't have to worry about that, at least not for me, because I do feel pretty passionately about this album. All right, so Throwdown, Deathless, I gave it a 4.3, and you gave it the most metal number that you could, a 6.66. Yes. So, yes. I mean, 4.3 was a little on the low side for me. You know, I wasn't in love with that one. Well, the point I'm trying to make, though, is, Jason, this album, you'll get a much more strong opinion out of me because this sucks. Okay, hold on. All right. It does not suck. But this, I don't know how else to say it. I have never listened to an album by a band that does so many things I like, and I just don't like it. Okay. And I'm glad you said that. Yeah. So after a few times listening to it, I started to pinpoint what it was that was causing that disconnect. But yeah, I've never in my life that I can recall have listened to an album where I started so high when it came on. And then every song, like in real time, I could feel myself being less and less into it. Okay. So I'm glad you said that because I kind of approached this one differently, and I think I'm going to start trying to approach albums a little more like this, where I played it in the background quite a few times before I ever sat down and took a note, listened intentionally. And so it was like, I just kind of had a general feel for the album. Like I didn't really pay attention to it. And so what I started to put together was exactly what you just said. The first time I listened through to this album intentionally, I kind of was already in the place of like, I've heard this, but not as like intently as I have or as I need to now. And so I put it on and it was like, okay, I like the first track. I like what we're doing here. And then it was like, as it went on, I kind of felt similar to A Marionette, the album Sunset of Its Generation, which you gave a 6.3 and I gave a 6.5 because it was that same thing. That album, everything they did I liked, but the biggest issue that I had with that, and if I remember correctly, you did too, was the fatigue. Yeah, and to your point, I wanted to say something before I lost my thought. Was you said pay attention until you actually stopped and paid attention. I'll be honest with you. By the back half, the last 3 or 4 songs, I have to force myself to pay attention because I am so just done. And the thing about A Marionette, the reason that I liked that better than this is because at the core, they had this sort of like funky swagger kind of pop sensibility to it all, where these guys, there's nothing like that. Like there's nothing funky. There's nothing swaggery. And in fact, dude, and again, you know how I like to try to be nice about these things. Even if I don't like it, I try to be like fair and say, hey, you know, it is what it is. Not for me. I think everybody in this band is stupid talented. Oh, yeah. Unbelievable guitar work, stuff that I could dream of trying to play. I would like to hear an instrumental version of this album because their lead singer is probably what I struggled with the most.
I'm going to agree with you as well. There is one place where he changes his delivery. There's a few places where his delivery really got me and I liked it. But there's one track where he changes his delivery for pretty much the entire thing where I thought it was one of the best things here. But, you know, in the beginning, I was feeling more along the lines of, you know, like a Dance Gavin Dance or a Coe de Cambria or a Protest the Hero, you know, in the beginning. And then as I got to the end, and I'm going to agree with you that I had to really force myself to pay attention. It gave me no reprieve.
I got the impression that he was going for like a Tillman thing or a
Claudio Sanchez.
Gosh. Yeah, Sanchez. I was trying to think of some other, you know, Johnny Craig. Like, I think he's going for that kind of soulful pop vocal, but he's not. He doesn't do it. Like, right. He's got 2 tricks. And I'm not a vocalist, so, you know, bear with me here, but I don't know how to explain it without giving an example. But he does 2 things with his vocals constantly. And it was getting to the point where 3, 4, 5 songs in, I'm like rolling my eyes because it's like, I know how it's going to go before he even starts singing. But he either sings like this or he sings like this. Like, it's either that weird, like, turn up at the end of the note or these like little hiccups in his lines that are like, dude, that's a cool little thing that you could throw in on 2 or 3 songs, but you literally throw it in every single song.
Right.
And not to beat up on the guy because I don't know him. I do think he has a good voice. I'm just not particularly a big fan of it. The lyrics start to wear on me after a while.
Okay.
These guys... Okay, we've talked about this before. Is it a feature or is it a bug? And this whole concept record, ancient alien thing is their shtick. Cool. I'm cool with the alien part. I'm not a huge fan of the God bashing part. So I started to kind of, I was checking out left and right.
Okay, so I found the lyrics to be very along the lines of like a Brave New World or 1984, kind of this like dystopian, hopeless sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like, all right, like I read a couple of the lyrics of songs, or I read the lyrics of a couple songs, and I kind of started to put that together, and it was like, all right, that's fine. I get it. Your lyrics are what they are. That's fine. And okay, so I do want to just take a minute. So I want to put some names with these different fellers here. So on drums, we got Paul Smith. On lead guitar, which I don't know which one was lead guitar because
every one of these is a lead player. It's a lead drummer. It's a lead bassist. Like, go ahead. All
right. So lead guitar, Nick Sampson. Guitar, Zach Phelps. Bass, and he also wrote the lyrics, Brandon Good. And then vocals is Phil Druyer, Druyor.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that either. Yeah, like, again, kind of like the Marionette thing. Every one of these guys is really talented, and they show you how talented they are every second of every song. There's very little chords. There's very little hooks. It's all super fast, shreddy stuff. There's no keyboard player mentioned, but there is just non-stop Nintendo 8-bit going on the whole time too.
So yes, all right. So I do like the synths on this. I think the synths actually added a lot to a lot of the songs, and
I like them in like a couple parts, but then there's other times where I feel like they're fighting with the guitars.
Right. I feel like the synths were a little bit overbearing at times, but I do like the synths that are here, and I think that they do a good job of doing what I've said many times, that a keyboard is there to kind of fill the empty space that happens within music. And I think it does a good job here. Now, there is something that I actually say a few times on a few different songs, but there's a certain sound that happens, and it's more in intros, but those guitars really lean into the Capcom fight game character select screen.
A lot of the music on this does.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. But you know what I'm saying? Like, that you could, like, I could hear that music for a lot of those scenes.
And as a guitar player who has played with nerdcore bands and played at nerd festivals and conventions, I'm cool with that. But then the lyrics aren't about that. The lyrics are about how Americans are awful, God isn't real, and aliens are taking over everything. It's a whole different kind of nerd, I guess, you know?
Right. It's more of the conspiracy theory nerd.
Right, which... again, you know, anybody that had ever listened to the show whose name we do not speak knows I like a good conspiracy. I like aliens. Cool. I'm all in. But then there's like this other underlying message that is sort of like condescending to people like me. And that part started to wear on me. To give you an example, I was curious to see like what these guys had done like past this, because this is pretty early on in their career.
Yeah.
I couldn't listen to much, but I listened to a few songs here or there. But they've done a couple of these concept records called Passion of the Heist, and it's about like a combination of Jesus's resurrection, but there's aliens involved. I hope you're having fun. I hope you guys are getting a good laugh out of that. You think you're doing something like mind blowing and experimental, and if people are digging it, that's great. I'm not, you know, I'm just not having fun.
I don't know. I think whenever you take a story of any kind and then you put aliens as the driving force behind it, you kind of dig into that conspiracy theory, like weird, like lizard people living in a subterranean level, like
right.
World.
And a lot of that's true. And as a matter of fact, I was actually just reading a Stephen King book, You Like It Darker, where it's a bunch of short stories. And one of the first ones is about aliens. And I thought it was great. It got under my skin. I was really like, whatever. I don't know, dude. There's something about, and I hate to keep picking on this lead singer guy, because these guys have thousands of monthly listeners. They're popular. They're obviously doing just fine. Who gives a shit if I like you or not? Does not matter. But that was my biggest hurdle with this. The vocals.
29,060 monthly listeners.
Guess what? That's 29,060 more than I have. So it's like, you're winning. So
I think we have at least two. So that's 20,058 more than we have.
You're right. We have two, because you and I will both listen to the episode after it's uploaded.
Okay, so I meant two additional, but yeah, they're far, far more than we have. So.
I say all that to say that these guys are talented. The singer is you said the bass player writes all the lyrics, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
The bass player is very creative and very imaginative. The singer is good at what he does. There's something missing in his vocals for me. And part of it is, like I said, it's very repetitive. It sounds like everything is kind of in the same key. Yep. The vocals are delivered in a very similar tone every time. And this is probably stuff that they've kind of like honed in on later records. I just did not have the time to really dive into that.
Okay, so before we really jump into the songs on this album, I want to kind of make a point. We've talked about this in the past, about how like we will murder an album for this show, and I feel like this album is a perfect example of where this album is a victim of our own show, because at first it wasn't bad, but it's like we had to listen to the entire thing. We had to analyze the entire thing. So we're going to listen to it multiple times. And I think that's what hurt this album more than the album itself.
And I get into that in my closing statements, but you're absolutely right. You play any one of these songs for me just once, and I'm going to go, that was awesome. Who is that? Right. And then if I go and start listening to the album, like I said, my first time through, I was already starting to feel it. Like I was picking out things I really liked, but I was noticing, man, track 2, track 6, track 9, we're all kind of hitting the same beats here. Like,
right.
They don't all sound the exact same, but there's going to be like some neoclassical guitar work. There's going to be some 8-bit Nintendo piano. There's going to be that same hey in the vocals. And I just was like, all right, guys, I get it. Like, you're really good. You're really good. But I heard it. I'm good.
So based on your vocal performance during this episode, I feel like you're getting better at singing.
Well, I've always had a microphone in the bands I play in, typically, but more for between song banter. And when we were doing rap songs, I was okay with kind of being a hype man. But that's okay. Or you know what? I did some singing, but my mic was always turned down compared to all the other backup singers.
That's appropriate to do. But
yes.
So, okay, now on a marionette, we said that they were all theater kids that were super talented at their weapons, at their instruments.
Hey, this music is a war.
So if a marionette was a bunch of theater kids that put out music like that, this is a group of guys that grew up in the suburbs getting hit by their stepfathers, and they made an album. And they were theater kids that grew up. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
I do not subscribe to that.
All right, so track 1 since 1776.
Much like you, I saw the name of the band. I know Jason.
Mm-hmm.
I had an idea of what was going to happen. This is not what I thought was going to happen.
Me either.
I got big Protest the Hero vibes. I was in. I was 100% in. And I still think, possibly due to track placement. However, I did see some other stuff, so maybe I'm people agree with me here. I think this is the best song on the album, for sure.
I don't think it's the best song on the album, but I think it is one of the best songs on the album. But okay. Part of that is because of the fatigue on why I think it's not the best song. But I was not expecting this at all. It came in big. It came in bright. It was heavy, but not too heavy. It was, I don't know. It was just good all around. I was actually like, the intro is quick and short on this one, and it kind of jumps right into it. It doesn't really give you a lot of time. You know how when you get in a pool, you kind of go slow? Yeah. This, like, it just pushed you in. And I was fine with it.
You know what? The hardest part for me is the nipples.
Yeah.
When I get into a pool, I'm usually pretty good up to about my waist. And then the nipples. And that's the real determining factor right there.
I have two hurdles. One is the danger zone. And then the other is the nipples. So 2 hurdles. Anyway.
I felt like I didn't have to. I think everybody knew that one, right?
I mean, you said it was your only hurdle. Anyway, so...
And the fact that you go by the moniker Danger, never refer to it as the danger zone again.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
No, that's terrible. No, this song is... Stop saying it. This song is awesome. I like, again, the vocals, what he's doing on the vocals. I hadn't heard him do this yet. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. But right from the get-go, you'll notice... There's not a whole lot, like, there's not like a catchy chorus with like big guitar chords. It's all very shreddy. They do have choruses, like they do have like repeated sections that, they've got some melodies that can get stuck in your head and stuff.
There's no hook.
Yeah, like, right. There's a bunch of cool little pieces. This is not their fault. This is just recording problems in general. anytime you're on kind of a lower budget, which these guys are, I think they probably are.
Well, they were signed to, the label is called Good Fight Music. So, and I don't know much about it, but I do know that they are a label with some other acts. I just took a quick look. They didn't have a whole lot that I recognized. So,
but when you try to do these big sweeping orchestral landscapes on a budget, it can sometimes feel a little bit like you can tell it's keyboards and synthesizers and not trumpets and strings. You know what I mean? So I was kind of into it until that like RPG Final Fantasy section at the very end.
Yeah, well, I said at 333, this becomes something that would fit the year 1776. Because it's like this like Revolutionary War fight scene music.
Right. Which is not bad.
No.
It just doesn't feel as epic as I think they were shooting for.
Right. And so, but something that I think would have really helped this song is if they had turned the bass up. Like, the bass is very low on this first song. It actually, a lot of this album, the bass is low.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. We're tinny.
I think that's kind of the problem in general. This album sonically is very high pitched.
Yeah.
The vocals, he's got a nice clean voice, but it is very high pitched. And I feel like for the most part, he's singing kind of at the top of his register. I don't even know why I'm bothering to ask. Did you watch the music video for this?
Actually, I watched part of it.
Okay.
I watched part of it, and I didn't turn it off because I didn't want to watch it anymore. I turned it off because something happened and I had to get up from my computer. And yeah,
sure. So I watched it a couple of times, and I gotta say, it says 2010, but I feel like they were kind of just doing the crabcore, like synchronized dancing stuff. Like, it almost felt like a parody of bands that do that more than genuine to me.
Yeah.
And again, sorry, brother, I don't mean to keep picking on you, but the lead singer, his hair, you don't notice it at first, but he's got this mullet / rat tail thing happening.
That he's aware. It's not a picking on him thing. He's aware. Like, nobody has a rat tail and doesn't know it.
It's not great. I gotta say, sometimes I watch a music video and it enhances the song for me. And in this case, it just hit all the beats that the music's doing. Like, it's got the mathcore, they've got the synchronized, like metalcore, like rockin', headbanging at the same time. And then they've got all the like Illuminati, all-seeing eye, pyramid stuff. Like, it's very on brand. Like, it's like, okay, this is a good business card to say, hey, we are I Am Abomination. This is what we're all about.
Yeah. So it's a low budget music video. It's what it is. Like, that's all I got out of it was just, it's a low budget music video, but it fits the band. But it doesn't fit the band because I don't feel like the imagery fits the sound, and it put me back in that whole place again. So
yeah.
Anyway, track 2, Thought Crime is Death. Okay, so there's a synth that happens at 25 seconds that I like.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're still coming out of number 1, going to 2. We're kind of still sticking with the same sound, but that's expected. And so we're still good here. Like, I'm actually okay. When I was listening intently, it was, I have heard this already, but it was,
right.
I was okay with it. I actually feel like the synth and the bass actually shine a little bit more here than they did in the first one, because there's a little bass part at 137 that I thought was good.
I have that in my notes too. I like that section that starts right around 136, 137. And then there's actually like a cool synth solo right around 209. That's pretty cool.
and it's a tone appropriate solo. Like the tone of the solo matches the song. So it's like we're at track 2 and you've given me all these little parts within the song that I'm like, that's a good choice. That's a good choice. That's a good choice. I like this one. I have no problem with 1 and 2 on this album at all.
But again, we're already, first 8-9 minutes of this album. These 2 songs, do they sound different? Yes, they do. Do they hit a lot of the same beats? Yes, they do. And even down to the cinematic outro with the, kind of big digital strings and stuff. So yeah, like I said, like I could actively, like, first song, I'm all in, I'm having a good time. Second song, I'm still in, but I can already see kind of what's probably going to happen. Right.
But so that little cinematic piece you're talking about at the end. That leads me to a criticism I have of this album. So just like on the Coheed and Cambria album we did, I said, I love the album, but the biggest thing that hurts the album is how it's like they wanted to get in the lore of the story, and they put it at the end of songs, and that hurt the songs. And I feel like this is a place where we're getting that, because I liked the second song, but it is 3 minutes, 59 seconds, so it's 4 minutes long. I don't feel like this needs to be 4 minutes long, especially since the first song was 4 minutes, 8 seconds. I feel like those little bits they put on the end are not needed. I feel like they put them on there because they don't want to tell a guitar player to calm down and fit that into the song somewhere.
This is one of the shortest albums that I felt like went on forever. Like, this is one that, like, by track 7, 8, 9, I'm like, okay, we're about over. And it's like, wait, we still have 2-3 more songs. It's like, wow. Like, they're just every song is so filled to the brim with everything. Right. That, like you said, there's never a chance to be like, it never like calms down. And even these like cinematic, like instrumental things at the end of these songs, it's still like so big and so bombastic that it's still, I don't know, it adds to the fatigue as well.
Right. Absolutely. So track 3, Cataclysm.
This one okay. I thought the intro was fun. It just kind of blasts right in with the guitars.
This was actually the first place that I put that the intro seemed like a Capcom fighting game character selection.
Yeah. So I was working with one of my nerdcore hip hop guys, and we were talking about doing those. What was that thing? It was really short lived. People were buying their like little sound clips or little cartoon drawings or something that you could purchase.
Like a NFT?
NFTs, yeah. And we were talking about doing like some NFT music samples. And I was trying to come up with these like doodle 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 doo, like stuff like that, just like one quick little guitar sweep or something. That's what this kind of reminded me of, but a much more aggressive, metal version. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of like this one. It kind of starts to groove around the 25-second mark, This one was also giving me just a little bit of Chiodos vibes because
I can see that.
It has that clean, clunky piano mixed with the kind of neoclassical guitar, which is cool. Same. It's got a lot of wacky guitar stuff and synth stuff, and it's full blast for the length of the song. I will say there's this little guitar solo, and at the very end of it, the very end of the solo at 3:21, it makes this weird like little beep sound that always made me kind of chuckle. I like that part.
I know the solo you're talking about. I don't know the beep, but I like this one as well. I kind of got the same feeling that you did, where it kind of grooved a little bit more, and I kind of feel like this one they kind of all synced up a bit more than other tracks on this album, because every other track seems like they're all playing something different that goes together somehow, but it's like they never quite really sync up like they did here. And I thought this one was good for 3 minutes 54 seconds. So we are shy, like 5 minutes shy of the other, or 5 seconds shy of the other song. So yeah, I liked it, but you're right, it came in, just blast us with Capcom, and I think it kept us at Capcom Fight for this entire song. So that's my feelings on Cataclysm. But let's talk about your feelings on track 4, The Deceiver.
This is the one that it really started to set in, like, okay, cool. So God and Jesus are really dumb. Like, the lyrics to this one were a real struggle for me. And again, I have no problem with people who disagree with my religious opinion. That's fine. Matter of fact, speaking of which, I don't know if you've listened to any of the new Marilyn Manson songs he's been putting out, but they are legitimately good.
Can't remember where I hid the keys. A reason for me.
I don't know if it's the scandals or what. He's got some fresh inspiration or something, but I'm genuinely looking forward to the new Marilyn Manson album, and I don't think I've ever said that before in my life.
I've not heard them, and I'm not even aware of the scandals that you're talking about, honestly.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that.
Right.
But anyway, long story short, sing about Satan. I don't care. Make fun of Jesus. That's up to you. But for me, there's just something about the vocal delivery with the kind of lyrics that he's saying that I don't know. They rub me the wrong way. A really good example of that is during the chorus, where he says, look up into the sky and you'll see nothing but atmosphere.
Reach for the sky. There's nothing left here for you but atmosphere.
The way he says the word atmosphere, especially that first time, kind of makes me nauseous. Like, it's just awful. Like, I really don't like it.
Okay, so I'm kind of glad you pointed that out, because I felt like this was actually a good song. Like, I feel like it's a well-executed song, and I actually liked his vocal delivery here. Now, we're at track 4. I haven't quite gotten tired of it, but this was when I started kind of giving him the side eye when he would say on atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it was like I was sitting in my car, taking notes on this album, reading the lyrics on my phone, and like he would get to that, and it's like, and I would think, that's not even needed in this song. Like, he could have actually left out that line, in the atmosphere, or nothing but atmosphere. I think, I don't know. I didn't take note of it, but it was like, if he just took that out, it would have been fine. It wouldn't have taken anything away. I think it would have added to it, because as we have talked about, everybody in this band is very talented. He's obviously a talented vocalist.
Sure.
Within a certain range, like a lot of vocalists that we listen to. But he doesn't need to do it all the time. Just doesn't need to.
Like I said, he's got 2 or 3 tricks, and he uses them every single song. And
so does Chino Reno.
Right, exactly. And we've talked about Deftones before. Neither one of us have really been able to stay huge fans of theirs. And Chino is part of that reason. Yeah. And so, again, I don't love his delivery, and now I'm really not loving the lyrics. So, again, like I said at the top of the episode, I think I would genuinely enjoy an instrumental copy of this album. I have a feeling instrumentally you'd be able to pick apart some of those guitar noodles and bass lines and all that really fast, crazy stuff happening a little bit better. because there's plenty of bands where I don't necessarily love the vocalist, but I can see what they're going for and appreciate it. Or maybe I don't love his voice, but I love the lyrics, or vice versa. And for me, this just isn't working.
Yeah. So let's talk about the solo in this song. It's a long solo. But was it actually needed? And like, because I listened to it, I listened to the song several times, and every time it was like, a little solo, fine, but a long solo like that, it's too long. You know, it actually makes me think back to the Darkness. You know, Believe in a Thing Called Love. That's a long ass solo.
You shut your whore mouth. That song is perfect.
No, I love that. I love that song, but that's a long ass solo in that song.
Okay. It is. You say it like it's a bad thing. That solo is perfect.
No, it was good. But we don't need a long solo all the time on other albums.
No. It's not good. It's perfect.
The techno breakbeat could have been left out.
Okay, so what did you think about the vocal delivery near the end of this song where he like yells, sorta? Yeah.
He's not a yeller. You know, like you've got guys that try to scream and they're not screamers. He's not a yeller. He's just not.
I feel like had you introduced a smidge of this in the first one or two songs, maybe I would have been a little more on board. But when it just comes out of nowhere, and again, I feel like it's trying to sound forceful, but he doesn't have a lot of low end in his voice, and there's not a whole lot of low end on the album.
Right.
It comes across as almost bratty. Like it comes across as like yelling in your face, like a disgruntled teen at dinner. You know what I mean?
Oh, I can't believe you just said it came across as bratty, because it just made me realize that this album is what happens when a band like The Broken View listens to Dance Gavin Dance too much. Track 5, No Rock and Roll Soul, or Rock and Roll No Soul, or Rockin' No Soul.
Rock and No Soul.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Track 5, Rockin' No Soul, featuring Dave Stevens of We Came as Romans.
Okay. I knew that wasn't Abomination singer. I knew that.
No, and Dave. I've got that Dave was actually on another song, but I had a hard time placing where he was on another song, and we'll talk about that there. So maybe my credits are just off. So anyway, no, that was Dave Stevens of We Came as Romans.
Okay.
So basically, this is if We Came as Romans put out a Capcom soundtrack and had spacey choruses.
It's funny you should say Capcom, because more specifically, this sounded like Castlevania music.
Fair.
Which I'm cool with. I'm all in. Again, the show we do not speak of, I did a whole thing about Castlevania music. I think it's cool. So I like the intro of this song a lot. Especially at 28 seconds, the beat kind of slows down into this kind of groove, and there's this creepy synth line in the back. That's some of my favorite stuff on the whole album. I think that whole section is really cool.
Okay, so this is not a bad song on the album. It's not one of the worst. It's actually one of the better songs on this album. I didn't need the solo at 2:39. The solos,
You're getting a solo, buddy.
the solos are kind of all becoming the same. I mean, the solo started at 2:39 and ended at 3:07. And so then the song has almost a minute after the solo is over, but not quite. Not quite, because we've gotten what I felt like was actually a pretty good song. But then at 3:36, it stops, and they give us the music to a space opera fight scene.
Like a lot of bands that we like are very disjointed and add a lot of parts and are really wacky. Like we did I Wrestled a Bear once. We did Protest the Hero. We did Coheed. We did Living Sacrifice. Like we like bands that are a little proggy and a little bit technically off the walls. But there's just something about it when these guys do it.
We did a Sleep Token album, and that's about as like technically off the walls as you can get.
It's super long songs, 7, 8, 9 minute songs. But there's just something about them that keeps you engaged and following along that these guys don't quite pull off for me.
It's because those other bands would add different parts into the same song, creating something you wanted to continue listening to. But these guys, it's like the sound they start with is kind of the sound we end up with before it goes into some digital space landscape.
Especially Sleep Token, but even Living Sacrifice, even I Wrestled a Bear Once, has these moments of quiet. They have these moments where they slow down for a second. They bring it down for a second. Hell, track 3 of that Living Sacrifice album is all acoustic guitar for like a minute. And then there's another acoustic thing near the end. Like, as brutally heavy as those bands are, they still have that in there. These guys never do that. They never get quiet and just chill for a second. And with that being said, now that we're at track 5, the screaming felt very out of place to me.
It did.
Like it felt like a whole different band showed up for a couple measures, and it just didn't. I feel like I'm really shitting on this thing, and I don't mean to be, but it just does not work for me.
So this wasn't a bad song because we got a big change in the vocals. But with that being said, when that solo started at 2:39, that was the first time in this album that I went, oh no. And it's like, it was at that point that it was like the rest of the album just felt like a weight. So, with that being said, this is a 5-track band.
Well, and I was going to compliment the lead singer for just a minute. Honestly, I don't know how they dictate it and how they want to write it out, but when he's singing that, like, verse into pre-chorus into the chorus, like that whole section there, he's actually doing some different stuff with his vocals, and I think it sounds pretty good. I think it's pretty unique. But yeah, like to your point, about 4 or 5 songs, and I've had my fill. Like, and honestly, 2-3 songs, and I feel like I'm pretty much golden. But yeah, after about 10-15 minutes, what else is there to say or to hear? Like, you know.
Well, what there is to say is track 6, Invisible Titans.
Our spirits rise from our shattered remains. No bodies to speak of, but the passion retains. We have died.
Now, I also had that Dan Stevens was on this track, but I couldn't place him on this track. So, again, it may be that my credits are off on stuff. So, with that being said, I like the little change up in the Capcom intro because we added vocal. And it was just this like subtle vocal to the whole thing. And it was enough for me to go, okay, after 5, I'm getting kind of tired of this, but we're doing something a little different here where it's not, it's like he's not in the forefront of it. He's just kind of added to it, which I liked. I thought was a nice little touch. And then there was a guitar change at 25 seconds that I thought was a nice change.
Yeah, I was going to say, for me, the thing that stands out the most about this song is the guitars. Because I think the guitars, again, these guitar players are insane. They're leaps and bounds better than me, better than I'll ever be. But they do a lot of the similar sounding leads and sweeps and arpeggios, like that neoclassical kind of thing. But what's cool on this one is there's this solo at the very end of the song that's almost more like classic rock more than it is metalcore. And I thought that was cool just to kind of diversify a little bit.
Yeah. So I liked that. I felt like he actually changed his vocal tone for this song altogether. I felt like this was one where he was really trying to push himself in a different direction as a vocalist. And maybe it's because he realized that at track 6, people might start to feel it. And he may have wanted to change it up. I think that this is one of the best songs on this album, track 6. And so that made me want to continue listening to this album, because it was like at 5, I was kind of like, okay, like about halfway through the song, I was kind of done. But then it's like we got 6 and I was like, Invisible Titans, cool, I'm back in. And I think it's one of the best songs here.
Yep. For me, this is just sort of a middle of the road song. I like the guitars are a little bit different, but I don't know. Other than that, this one just sort of in one ear and out the other for me.
Okay. So then let's talk about track 7, Greetings from Easter Island.
Okay, so the intro to this one's kind of wacky. It's like a metalcore band playing inside of a spaceship.
Okay, I put it a chuggier intro, which I want to let you know, chuggier is not a word according to Google, because it's telling me chuggier is wrong.
Well, you said chuggier, and I put chunky groove. So
okay, so same kind of thing, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, no, but I understand what you're saying, though.
But I will say this one for me is a tough listen, because especially the first verse of this song is the most egregious example of those vocal tricks I kept bringing up. Every line is some combination of that going up and going down. Like every single line, he's doing one or the other. And it's like, dude, like literally, I'm like rolling my eyes. I'm like, I can't, like, stop, please just go straight out. Just hit the last note and hold it. Like, I don't know, man. The music on this one's okay. I don't hate the music on this one. There's this really cool outro riff that starts around 257 that I really, really, really like.
Yeah. I really like the way this one goes out altogether.
But the vocals on this one is not great. Again, I'm not a big fan of the lyrics. You know, again, if we sat down with the bass player who writes all the lyrics, I'm sure he'd explain to me how I'm just not smart enough and I'm not getting the metaphor, and he's probably right. But when I'm seeing some of these lyrics, they just, I don't know. They rub me the wrong way, I guess you could say. All
right. So there's a great little drum part at 147. I actually really like the drums on this one, but everything out of that intro and the way the song goes out and that little drum part reminds me of 1 through 5 on this album. Like, it feels like it's the same song. I mean, we got another long solo on this one. Now, I'm with what you said at the beginning. If you had just showed me track 7 and I didn't listen to anything else, I'd be like, this is awesome. Like, I'd be like, everybody's got to check this band out.
Yep.
But I don't know. Because I've made my way through this entire thing so far, it's like this one just didn't throw enough different at me. It's like it started with something different. I was like, okay, cool. Maybe we're gonna do things different here. And then at 147, I got hope. And then it went out with something great. And I really wish they had actually made that. Where'd you say the ending started? That riff started at 250.
At 257.
At 257. I wish they had made that the song. That would have made a cool song, or just made that like the choruses and work it in together. I don't know. Like, that would have been a great thing to throw in here, because I feel like the singer realized that people were getting a little fatigued, and that's where he kind of changed things up a little bit ago. They threw us a different singer. I mean, but I know what you're talking about his delivery, especially in that first verse. It drove me nuts. I'm with you.
So to give you an example, and this, this isn't especially good or bad. It's just the kind of lyrics that are in almost every one of these songs. The chorus to this song is, God dies when the churches rise. He was born when the ancient astronauts arrived. The heavens exist and our maker is there. Death is not the way to visit. Technology is our only prayer. Nerds!
Well,
nerds!
Look, I'm a nerd. You know this about me. No, but like I said at the beginning, it's very 1984 dystopian type lyrics.
Like,
and that's what I got out of it.
Too. I'm a nerd too, and I like sci-fi, and I like alien stuff, but there's just something about the way these are being presented that just come across as like...
holier than thou?
Pretentious, condescending, and I just... it's not working. Not working for me.
All right, track 8, Art Attack.
Cool name.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they actually, that was like a typo and it was supposed to be Heart Attack.
No, I'm sure that's it.
Heart Attack. All right, my first note on this one, the fatigue is real. Like, this was the point of this album where I went, okay, we could do this. We could get through this one. I could do this. Vocal delivery is better here, but not good enough.
This is another one where the lyrics kill me, dude. I stopped
paying attention to the lyrics at this point. Like,
I mean, like, here, I'll just read the first couple lines and you tell me what impression it gives you. Okay. These are the lines of the first verse. The greatest illusionist of all time. This is the end of an era. What a goddamn shame they became, eyes glazed over and hysterical. Like a moth to a flame, they've died with a smile. When you fight for something you can't see, how can you believe?
The greatest illusionist of all time. This is the end of an era. What a goddamn shame they became. Eyes glazed over and hysterical. Like a moth to a flame, they die with a smile. When you fight for something you can't see, how can you believe? How can you believe?
Jim Jones. The Jonestown Massacre.
Maybe I'm a Bible thumping Jesus freak, but to me, that sounds like he's talking about God, and it's very disrespectful. And it's not just like a clever whatever for me. Like, it's just, it feels very finger pointy. And dude, I don't care if you like God or not. I don't care if you believe in God or not. It's none of my business. But when you make your whole thing about how bad God is, or like how against it you are, or how phony it all is, or how stupid we are for believing it, I kind of get sick of hearing it after a few songs. You know,
it's kind of like we've actually talked about for anything, be it religion, sexuality, politics, whatever. When you make that thing your entire identity, it kind of makes me lose whoever else you are. So
well, and
maybe
too,
that's the case here. I don't know.
Like when we talk about Christian bands and Christian artists and stuff on this show, we've talked about before, sometimes the constant being beaten over the head with the religious part of it can get old too. And I think that a lot of the Christian bands that you and I grew up listening to that we really liked, every song's not a praise and worship song. There's a lot of songs about despair and depression and anger and violence. Like the Christian part is just one piece of what the stories that they're trying to tell. Like POD and Project 86 and so for me, cool. Like I prefer that. I'm not a big fan of like praise and worship music either. Like I've got to be in the mood for some of that. So for me, this just, like I said, I felt like I was being beaten over the head and almost being made fun of for what I believe in. And that made it hard for me to really enjoy, because actually I kind of like the music on this one. This one, the guitar solo that starts at 2:18. That whole section was giving me like Avenged Sevenfold vibes, which I'm totally into that. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, so you talk about that solo at 2:18. And as soon as that solo started, okay, so first it kind of poked its head through a little bit before, like, he was still singing and it was doing its thing.
Yeah.
And so it was like kind of prepared us for the solo. I hated it as soon as it started. I hated it because I kind of feel like it's the same thing that we've been hearing so far.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't a super long solo because then the song changed at 2:29 and I didn't hate that part. And I would actually have liked it if they leaned more into that.
That's the part that almost sounds like it could have been like the starting point of like a Linkin Park song or something, right?
Kinda.
Yeah. Like I was kind of into that. That was all right.
Yeah. I didn't hate it, but I wish that there was more of that in this song because that would have made me like the song more. So, All right, track 9, Creatures of the Night. Which I kind of feel like that might be my favorite like title on this whole album.
Oh,
yeah.
Agreed. 100%.
All right. So as far as the vocals go on this, there were little harmonies in the vocals that I actually really liked in this song. Everything else I didn't like it. Everything else in the vocals, let's put it that way.
Do you remember on the Memphis Mayfire album we discussed, there's that one song, crap, I don't remember the name, but Maddie was basically singing about like how, we did it ourselves and we're triumphant and you'll remember us, whatever. And I told you I don't really care for that kind of that song. Like a lot of bands have that song. And
we're hot shit. And yeah.
The lyrics to this one give me the impression that's kind of what they're saying. Like it almost sounds like the analogy he's making is like a group of guys in a band going town to town, playing their songs and singing their lyrics and how they've got these fresh, new, cool ideas that, they're the creatures of the night that are taking over, blah, blah, blah. Again, maybe I'm stupid and it's all a metaphor for something, I'm not saying it's aliens, but that kind of thing. But yeah, so for me, musically, I felt like it was a lot more of the same. I did like the intro. I thought cool guitar lick, little half tempo groove. That was cool. But then once the song gets going, again, it just sort of all runs together.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so there was this little ending that happened at 3:16. then the song picks back up and goes to 408.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hated that. As you know, I hate false endings. And of course, I can't hate a false ending the first time I hear it as much as I do the second time I hear it.
Right.
And honestly, this one didn't need to be 4 minutes, 8 seconds. I mean, 4 minutes is a lengthy song already. I mean, like, I would say, what, like 2.5 to 3.5 minutes is good song length. But 408 on an album that already feels long, and then you give me a false ending. I don't need it. I don't need it.
I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't have been mad if a couple of these songs did go on an additional 15, 20 seconds. If those additional 15, 20 seconds were moments of breathing, like moments of
not the sound of breathing, but
no, it could be possibly, but something to kind of break up the onslaught, I guess you could say.
Okay. All right. So let's round the album out and talk about track 10, Element 151. Now, I am going to kind of go back to something that we have said in the past a few times. You said it on the Bad Omens album. I think I said it on the Splendor album. I feel like there was another one about why would you make me wait till the last song to give me the best song? I feel like this was the best one here on this entire album. I feel like the guitars are just like monstrous and like not like noodling neoclassical, guitar wanking bullshit. I feel like this was a damn good song.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to read what I have. Okay. That intro was giving me big KMFDM vibes at first.
Yep.
Obviously, when that weird riff kicks in, it sounded a lot more like standard metalcore. But it was kind of like Silent Planet, but without any balls. Like, they've got that heavy, chuggy riff. But now, granted, this is 2010. This is before we got into... It was before Mick Garris did the music for Doom and everybody's guitar tone changed.
Right.
Which, I'll be honest, I was listening to Loathe. I think that's it. And one of their albums. And every song... And I noticed this with Knocked Loose, too. Their guitar tones don't sound like guitars. They sound like blasts of, like, fuzzy digital, like, is it heavy? I guess, but it stops sounding like a live instrument at that point. So I don't want to go that far, but for me, as cool as that riff is that kicks in, it's just missing something. Like, it doesn't have that like heaviness. Like, it didn't make me do the stink face like I wanted to. And then when the vocalist comes in, it just... I'm over it.
So, okay, I think this was the best song here. I think this is a good song. But what it's missing is low end. And
the whole album is.
Yeah, and that's my biggest criticism of this album is, yes, I feel like the songs are a little too long, but the low end is missing out of this. So while I think this is a good song, I feel like it could have been a better song if they gave me some balls. And I actually have the note, this is a really good song with no balls.
So we both put lacking the lack of balls in our notes.
This song is like, I don't know, if you were to go out for the night without your testicles.
I think the writing of the fact that we're missing the balls says more about us than it does this band.
Yeah, probably. So, all right. We've gotten so many solos on this album. The solo does not need to be here. The solo is the weakest part of this song. But I feel like the bass was the weakest part of this song. But the solo didn't need to be here. But the ending on this song. felt like an ending. And it's the first time on this album that I was like, you closed this one right. Instead of just switching to another sound quite drastically, right. This one felt like it came to a close, which makes me go with, this is a really good closer for this album. Because it actually felt like we pulled it together.
I agree. And something else that I couldn't help but notice in that music video when I watched it is these dudes look like they were kids. They look like they were probably like late teens, early 20s. And for that, dude, highly impressed. Like, I just wanted to get this out before I get to my closing statement. I just wanted to say that you guys are super talented. It's just, it's not working for me. And so, I like this song, this last song. I do agree it's a good album closer. I like the weird voice at the end. I'd like to, I'm sure whatever he's saying is about God or aliens or God is an alien or something like that, which is fine. But it did feel like a conscious finale to the record.
Right. Absolutely. So, Monster, let me ask you, what's new with you?
Hey, good looking. Cooking.
I don't know. I put 17. I put since 1776. I guess it's one of the few songs that like consistently grooves, because a lot of these songs will have like little grooves in there, but that's the only one. And I guess a little bit of Element 151. As well. That opening riff has a little bit of that new metal bounce, but not much. So anyway, Danger, what's cooking?
Element 151. Is Element 151 a song I would play in the kitchen? Not really, but it would be the one song off this album that I would put on a cooking playlist. Which, if you do want to hear that cooking playlist, you can check it out on Spotify. It's called What's Cooking. And then there's a new metal one of Monsters called What's New With You. Both on Spotify.
And I need to do something with that, because I don't think I've added a single song to it yet.
I add songs every time I edit.
Oh, you're such a sweetie.
See, that just shows you, audience, how much Monster's aware of what I do. He doesn't even know that I'm adding songs to his playlist.
I run the Facebook, and I don't know if you noticed, but I posted our text conversation earlier.
Oh, you did?
Yes, It's awesome.
All right, give me your closing statement.
No, you need to go first.
All right, fine. I will. I'll go first. This album lacks the meat to make it really stick, but it would be a fine fit on a Swancore playlist next to Stellar Circuits or Coheed and Cambria. In the end, there are no killer songs. This is an album of good songs that go on for too long. A little trimming would go a long way here, but it's clear they are all very competent musicians, but I need them to understand what it is to slow it down and give the listener a break. I say this should be next to Stellar Circuits or Coheed, but I will put this with a Marionette, Sunset on This Generation. Each song is good, but when everything is at 11, nothing is at 11. I gave this album a 6.
If I'm home alone and want pizza for dinner, I'm not going to eat a whole large pizza. I might order a large pizza if they have a good deal going, because leftover pizza is good for a few days, hot or cold, really. But when dinner time comes around, I'm probably going to eat something like 2 or 3 slices, 4 if I'm feeling like a real fatty. Now, if after 2 or 3 slices and I'm feeling pretty full, some dude busts through my window and force feeds me the rest of the pizza while yelling at me about how God is made up, aliens are real, and our forefathers are assholes, well, when it was all said and done, I would probably feel the same as I do after listening to this album a bunch of times. Bloated, annoyed, and maybe ready for a nap. Every one of these dudes is super talented, and every song features wild guitar noodling, flashy synth runs, and big, clean vocals. The problem is, after a few minutes, they've shown you all their tricks, and the songs start to feel flat and without dynamics. And while the music stays in one place sonically, the lyrics stay in one place thematically. I could feel my interest decline in real time as I listened to this album from start to finish. At first, I was all in. A couple songs later, I was less into it. And by the end, I was more than ready for it to be over. Just like a large pizza, I love it for about 2 or 3 slices, but I never want to eat it all in one sitting, especially while being forced to watch reruns of Ancient Aliens Clockwork Orange style. 1 to 10, I put 4.19.
I had a feeling you were going to go 4 something, so I actually had my finger on the 4, ready to go. So, all right, that puts I Am Abomination, To Our Forefathers in the 54th position, right below Head PE and right above Sugar Ray. You gave it a 4.19. I gave it a 6. So we put this album at a 5.095. And just for reference here, so I Am Abomination is in 54. Jason's previous request, Throwdown, Deathless, is at 50. It's in the 50th place.
Jason, keep them coming, buddy. I love it. You're introducing me to new bands and new albums, and I love that. I'm sorry we haven't loved these first 2 that you've given us, but they were fun to listen to and talk about, and hopefully they make for fun episodes. So, Jason, thanks for listening. If you got any more, send them our way. We'll give them a listen for sure. And, dude, I know you got good musical taste. I know we'll hit on something.
Yeah, Jason, just keep it coming, and maybe we'll break into the top 20. I don't know. I would say top 10, but that's lofty goals, I guess. Is our top 10 lofty? I don't know. Anyway, thank you.
Who wouldn't want to be in our top 10? Come on.
Taylor Swift's not anymore. She got knocked out by a void.
Don't tell your fiance.
I already did. All right. So along with Jason, everybody else, thank you for listening. And if you have a suggestion for an album that you'd like for us to listen to, or a suggestion about this episode, a thought about this episode that you'd like to share with us, please shoot it on over to breakdownsbreakfast@gmail.com or head on over to the Facebook page and let us know there.
And if you're in the band I Am Abomination, please don't hate me. Please don't come and find me and beat me up, because I'm sure you could all beat me up.
I don't know. Maybe we should listen to an album after this and see if it brings the same, just like we've done with the Marionette. So
I'd rather not.
Okay, we'll give it a break. All right, Monster, what album are we listening to next week?
Okay, so next week we are going way, way, way into the future and doing a brand new album, like a week ago at time of recording this. We will be discussing the new Falling in Reverse album released August 16th, 2024. Danger, what do aliens like to eat?
What?
Unidentified frying objects.